everyone. Welcome to SCV Means Business, the podcast where we meet the leaders of companies making a difference in their communities. I'm your host, Holly Schroeder, and today my guest is Yoni Lavi, who's the president of Lavi Industries, another company here in the Santa Clarita Valley. Welcome, Yoni. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Holly.
Great. Well, this is a product, a service that everybody uses and nobody probably thinks very much about. So why don't you start by telling us a little bit about Lavi Industries?
Sure. So we were founded in 1979. So we've been doing business for the better part of 40 years. And our core legacy business, what people know us for, are when you stand in line, those posts with the belt that come out of them, we manufacture those. That's what everyone knows us for. When friends and family travel around the world, they always send us pictures of our cap and remind us where they're traveling about. But we don't see ourselves so much as post people. We obviously see ourselves as a queuing and public guidance solution provider. So with that, we manufacture a whole host of different architectural fixtures that make it easy for the public to navigate a wide array of different public facilities. Whether it's wayfinding, signage, digital solutions, different barriers to protect and safeguard people. And then in recent years, we've also added a cloud software solution to our offering that also helps with queuing and customer experience in the same facilities.
Yeah, and I think I'm on that list of folks that can send you those photos. So let's start at the beginning because we do. We see the posts when I'm at the airport or when I was getting on a cruise and see that Valencia, California label there, and that's always fun. So you've got probably people that are recognizing you all around the world.
Yep. Yeah. And our posts have a very distinct look, by the way, that it's easy for people to recognize them. I know it's kind of sounds silly that there's a difference from one post to the next, but there's very distinct grooves and a very distinct label on the cap. And actually those grooves allow us to integrate a variety of things to those posts beyond just the belts. So as an example, during COVID, we integrated acrylic paneling in between the posts to safeguard passengers, to safeguard people when they're at banks or at retail environments, so that when they queue, there's kind of a safe air guard for contamination of the virus. So actually those grooves that make them very recognizable are also very functional for integrating different products.
So obviously you're putting, I've seen them in lots of places around Southern California and elsewhere. Are these used just nationally, internationally? Where are your customers?
All over the world, every industry, every size business. Any business that has patrons that physically navigate their facility is a potential customer of Lavi Industries.
And do people queue differently in different countries? It seems like it sometimes when you travel.
You know, it's funny. My father, the founder, Gabriel, is Israeli. And I, of course, am de facto Israeli myself, and I lived in Israel for several years. And Israelis do a lot of things great. Queuing is not one of them. Israelis are not people that like to queue, and it's very ironic that two Israelis are responsible for creating kind of the world leader in queuing systems.
That's
yes,
awesome.
Queuing is different in different countries, and at the end of the day, being above and beyond just a manufacturer, someone who can really collaborate with different businesses in their challenge of customer flow, passenger flow, whatever the industry, it's really important to understand those to be the best partner and consultant.
Yeah, so let's talk about that migration and transition that you've gone through from being the sort of physical, architectural queuing to the wayfinding and helping companies. So describe both what that means for your customers and how you've made that transition as a company.
So I think the first step in doing that is what you see when you look in the mirror. That's the first step as kind of a business leader. Am I a manufacturer or am I a provider of queuing solutions? And just that simple question can greatly determine where the business is going. Mm-hmm. And so being that we've always seen ourselves as a queuing provider, we're constantly looking at what is the next direction for our company. And so we definitely have a culture of innovation. And what we identified was, while most environments do call for some sort of fixtures to help guide public through facilities, there are many circumstances where the queuing process is more virtual and abstract in nature. And I would say a more boring example, but a very good example, when you go to the Department of Motor Vehicles and you need to renew a license, there is no real way to physically stand in line, because Holly may show up for renewing a license and Yoni may show up for a driver's test. So it's much more appropriate to actually collect information from each customer upon their visit and have them virtually queue, so to speak, to the right skilled employee. And that process is called virtual queuing, and appointment scheduling is a subset of virtual queuing. So we said, you know what? We should be able to not only help people navigate physically through facilities, but this is also queuing, and we need to go in this direction also. And what we found in recent years is that they're actually very, very good complements for one another.
Yeah, I can imagine. And the notion of virtual queuing, as you describe it, has gotten a lot more common. We're seeing that in a lot more places. Is in part due to the pandemic, and in part just, I think, due to continued accessibility of people having the ability to do things on their phone and the pervasiveness of cell phones. So tell me about some other examples of solutions like that virtual queuing.
I would say one of the largest growth areas for us, certainly during the pandemic, was retail banking. So funny enough, people still like to go visit their money. I always thought that mobile banking is the way forward. But just the sheer masses that still go to the bank and need to speak with skilled representatives, visit their bank account, so to speak. There was a huge need during the pandemic to first and foremost manage the occupancy entering the branch. So that was the impetus for quickly scaling with our technology. But once it was implemented, and once the Band-Aid was ripped off, so to speak, with implementing this technology enterprise-wide, a lot of these banks said, wow, this has so much more of a positive impact than just helping us manage occupancy and how many people can walk in. There's a long-lasting benefit here, such as we can identify if someone's a business customer versus a normal customer. We can identify ahead of time if someone has special needs versus someone who's, just more of a, kind of low maintenance kind of customer. And being able to triage these different customers and offer them a different digital experience allows these banks, these retail banks, to really give a level up in their service and be more competitive with alternative brands. So
it's obviously then becomes a better experience for the customer, because they might say you're going to wait 2 minutes versus 7 minutes, or whatever it is. It helps shape the expectations, because one of the frustrating things about standing in line is you don't know how long you're going to stand there, right?
So it sets the expectation. It gives them the ability to interact with the branch as well. They can communicate through the technology in real time with banking representatives while they're at Starbucks having their coffee. Hey, did you bring your paperwork for your mortgage application, for your loan application? And they can navigate this discussion while they're waiting. So when it comes time for that service, the interaction is that much more fruitful, it's more efficient, and everybody wins. And that's just the example of banking. Obviously, healthcare was big for us recently. Making sure that you keep lobby areas sterile is the first most important point. But then customer experience, efficiency, these are things that you start to address once you solve the initial pain point. And the cool thing about those implementations, sorry to run on,
no, please,
is signage and queuing still plays a really big role, even if it's a technology deployment. So if I go back to the example of a bank, let's say there's virtual queuing there, and Holly shows up to speak with her wealth management advisor. When you show up to the bank, you still need to go somewhere. There still needs to be some clarity of what the process is. So even though you've deployed this cloud technology that's got all the bells and whistles, there needs to be some signage. Here's where you go to join the queue. Here's a potential waiting area. This is the process for business banking versus consumer banking. So we still lean very heavily on our decades of queuing expertise and our capabilities for manufacturing, even in those situations.
So obviously mobile technology has made, and the cloud has made a lot of this possible that wasn't maybe possible, say, 20 years ago or 25 years ago. How have you as a company been able to make that shift, as you said, from what you see when you look in the mirror, in terms of your employees and the skills and composition, really, of the employee base that you have?
That's a great question. So whenever you evolve as a company, first of all, you have to pay homage to the amazing tenure that you may or may not have. We certainly have it, of people who've evolved with you. And you need to continue to learning from those folks and understand where your roots. And as you add new talent to help with the evolution, they need to also understand where you've come from and maintain that same identity. So I think that's been one of the most interesting things that our company's gone through, is obviously as we bring in tech-oriented solutions, you need tech-oriented talent that needs to work adjacent to and collaborate with people who have more manufacturing experience, more traditional skill sets. So it's really important that those two kinds of talent gel very well with one another. And I think the foundation for that is that the new generation talent, the tech talent, understand just how skilled and how knowledgeable the other talent is. Because often what happens is people who are in the tech industry can get a little bit excited and get ahead of themselves.
Well, it's easy to think that that is the solution to all, right? And as you
Correct.
say, you need
Correct.
to be, you may need a physical stanchion for, the QR code that I'm going to shoot or something when I walk in somewhere, right? So how do you facilitate that as a culture within your company? I mean, are you working in cross-functional teams, or what's your management approach there?
So you find a common denominator, and for us, that's our customers. We tell whether you are assembling a post, whether you're selling a piece of signage, whether you're writing code for our software, you must be a queuing expert. It's non-negotiable. You have to understand queuing when you go out in the world. And all of our employees experience queuing when they're going to shop at supermarkets, when they're going to their own banks. So we expect of everyone to understand queuing and have a passion for it, irrespective of the role. And when everyone shares that, and they also share a vision for the best interest of the company, it's really easy to get on the same page and collaborate.
Are your Monday morning water cooler conversations about, I had this really bad experience in a line over the weekend from all your employees? I mean, they must, people complain about, lines that don't work well, and you guys are experts, so it must be salt in the wound.
Yeah. So it's either that or it's what hike did everyone do in the Santa Clarita Valley. It's one of the other.
That's probably a more fun conversation to be talking about the hikes.
Yeah. But yeah, people do, there's a lot of talking shop here. And, as the president, nothing excites me more than to walk through our facility and hear two people debating and getting passionate over work-related topics, especially when it involves customers and queuing.
So, Yoni, you also talked about that, the company's over 40 years old and you're started by your father. So,
and my mother, by the way. Father and mother.
And so tell me a little bit about working in a family-owned business and making that transition from, them running the business to you running it, because that's a transition that's hard for a lot of companies, is to figure out how to manage the generational changes.
That's a great question, and that's a $1 million question, because there are studies in Ivy League schools all around governance of family-owned businesses. So it's not a simple topic, right. But if I could give my own 2 cents on it, I think the first is that the generation coming in needs to pay absolute respect to the generation prior. That's an absolute starting point because they built this business from the ground up and they had this vision to evolve and innovate over time and then entrust in me to come and have a positive impact. So that's number one. The second thing is they've given me, hopefully I've proven myself, I like to think that I have, the most amazing leeway and respect to put my own stamp on the business and to continue to take it in the direction that they've created, but also my own direction. So it's all about a two-way respect. And today we just have the most amazing relationship and shared vision for the company. And it all goes back to that common denominator: passion for our customers, passion for our employees, and well-being for all the families that work with us. You can't fail if you share those things.
And so what do you see ahead, and in terms of where the company goes and what how technology is going to continue to evolve, especially as we look at hopefully a post-COVID or at least not crisis COVID world. Some of the solutions you described where we're talking about partitions, are those things that companies want to keep? I mean, what are you hearing from your customers in terms of how they want to operate with their customers?
Yeah. So American Airlines, I would say about 10 years ago, came to us and they said, we're doing away with stanchions. There's going to be no more stanchions. We're only going to have kiosks when you check into your flight. And it will be the end of all queuing. And since then, our sales with American Airlines have steadily increased year by year by year by year. I think when you think about going out in the world and navigating different brick and mortar facilities, I think there's a very low tech practical aspect that will never change. At the end of the day, if you're going to screen passengers through a security checkpoint, or you're going to take a shopping cart and go about a retail facility and add things to your basket, there is a physical queuing process, a physical experience that's unavoidable. And it's important to have a really practical approach to that, mindset and product offering to help with that. That does not negate the fact that technology can continue to enhance those parts of brick and mortar experiences and make those operations more efficient. So I think I'd like to continue to see the company dancing in both weddings and knowing when to be low tech and practical and when to kind of add the next level of innovation and help our customers steer between those two worlds. Because something that I'm seeing also, our customers struggle with that. They've got the IT and innovations department, and then they've got their operations people. And a lot of those groups see their own business totally different and have a completely different approach. So hopefully our company can help bridge the gap between sometimes two completely different organizations within one company.
Yeah, so the teamwork that you have within your company can help bring that collaboration in your customers' businesses. Brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant. Okay, so before we wrap here, since you brought it up, what's your favorite hike in the Santa Cruz Valley?
So there is a trail. It's not a hike. It's a mountain bike trail called Viper. And it's just off the 14. And you climb for about 4 miles. And then when you drop down, you have the entire Santa Clarita Valley view. It's incredible. It's a really, really challenging mountain bike. And I've taken a couple people up there. They weren't happy about it afterwards. But it's truly amazing. And then Castaic. I've done a couple of hikes up in Castaic.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, the views are spectacular. Spectacular.
Yes.
Great. Well, Yoni, thank you for joining me today. It really is. One of the things we love about these podcasts is we see these companies that are building and making and finding solutions to that people take for granted every day. And you are an example of just coming up with really innovative solutions that are making people's lives a lot easier, and our businesses' lives a lot easier. So thanks for what you're doing, and thanks for joining me here today.
Thank you guys, and like I said, we love Santa Clarita. We love the people here. It's just great. It's great to have a home here.
Well, thank you so much. And thanks everybody for listening. And please subscribe to SCB Means Business on whatever platform you get your podcasts. And we will see you next time. Thanks for being here.